Hello, my name is Mr. Asprey and this is Edexcel IGCSE 2023 2H practice paper. Disclaimer, no one knows exactly what will be in paper 2, only the examiners. This paper has been created by me after analysis of previous IGCSE papers. Use this practice paper on top of your revision. The best plan is to be comprehensive and revise all topics. So what I recommend doing is checking out my video where I go over examples on every single topic. I also have a video where I go over everything that you need to memorize for the IGCSE, and I also have a playlist where I go over exam questions on every single topic. So like I said before, be comprehensive and make sure you revise all the topics, so check out those videos. And if you do find this practice paper useful, then I'm more than happy to make another one. Just smash that like button. If it gets 100 likes, I will make a second paper. You could download this paper, link is in the description, and let's get into it. The paper is for 100 marks. It has 24 questions, not the 22 that it says at the top, and it's a really good standard, so let's get into the questions. First off, fractions. Show this. So what I'll need to do is multiply 5 by 3 to get 15, and then add on 1. That gives me 16, so that will be 16 fifths. Next, I do 6 times 1, which is 6, plus 5 is 11, so that's 11 sixths. And I'm multiplying these. I could do a little simplification first, because I've got a 16 and a 6 on top, so I could divide them both by 2 to get 8 and 3. Then I do top times top, which is going to give me 88, and bottom times bottom, which is going to give me 15. Now, how many 15s go into 88? Well, I could do that on my calculator. 88 divided by 15, and that gives me 5, so I know the answer is going to be 5. And if I just press this button here, 15 times 5 is going to give me 75. So to get to 88, I need 13, which is perfect. So 13 over 15. Great. Question 2. There are two rectangles. It says the area of B is twice the area of A. So the area of B is going to be 4 multiplied by 5 minus x, because a length times width is going to give me the area. And that is going to equal, that word is means equal, twice, so 2 times, the area of A, which is going to be 5 lots of 2x minus 1. I can expand these brackets to get 20 minus 4x. And over here, I have 2 times 5, which is 10, times 2x, so that's 20x. And I'm going to have 2 times 5 times minus 1, so that's minus 10. The smallest x is the minus 4, so I'm going to add that to both sides. That's going to give me 24x. I'm going to add the 10 to both sides and get 30, and that's going to give me 24x. And then dividing through, I will get 30 divided by 24, which is 1.25. So x equals 1.25. Okay, next question, probability. There are 54 fish in a tank. Some of the fish are white, some of them are red. Javan takes a random fish from the tank. The probability that he takes a white fish is 4 out of 9. So that means that 4/9 of the fish are white. So if I want to work out the number of white fish, I need to do 4/5 of 54. I could do that on my calculator by pressing 4/5 multiplied by 54, and that's 24. Okay, Javan puts the fish he took out back into the tank, so there was still 54. Javan takes a random fish from the tank. What's the probability? The probability that he takes a white fish is now half. Okay, so there are 54 in the tank, and the probability is a half, so that means there needs to be 27. I've already got 24, so take that from 27. 3 need to be added. Question 4. A train journey from Paris to Amsterdam took 3 hours and 24 minutes. And the total distance was 433.5. Average speed. Okay, so I draw a little triangle like this. Speed, distance, time. So the speed is equal to the distance over the time. The distance is given in kilometers, which is good, because right down here it needs to be in kilometers. But I need to convert this into hours. So I'll do my calculator. I'll do 3 ... 24 ... press equals, and that gives me 17/5, or 3.4 hours. So 3.4 is the number of hours. So that goes into my calculator, 433.5 divided by 3.4. Great, that's 127.5. Angles, we are told that these two angles here are the same. Okay, and we know that this is a pentagon, and pentagons have 5 sides, so take away 2 times by 180 tells me that a pentagon has 540 degrees inside it. So I will do 540 minus 112 plus 102 plus 96. So 540 minus 112 plus 102 plus 96. Great, that gives me 230, and I'm going to divide that by 2. And that's going to give me 115. So this in here is 115. Okay, what's this angle here? This green one? Well, this is part of an octagon. So an octagon has 8 sides, so 8 minus 2 times 180. So 8 minus 2 is 6 times by 180. That's the total angles inside an octagon, and it's a regular octagon, so all the angles are the same, so I can divide by the number of angles, which is 8, and I get 135. So that's 135. So finally x is 360, because around this point we have 360, then we have minus 135 minus 115. So 350 minus 135 minus 115, and we get 110. Perfect. Okay, we have we've got density, and I've got mass, and I've got a volume of a cuboid. So I'm going to need to do my density volume triangle. And I've been asked for the mass, so I find the mass by doing density multiplied by volume. The density is 0.7, and the volume of a cuboid is the length times the width times the height. Great, quick check of the units. They want it in grams, and this density is in grams per centimetres cubed, and that's all good. The units are good, so I just need to type this into my calculator. And I get 336. Okay, we've got 5 cocoa pods in a bag, and they have a mean weight of 398. And we put a 6th one in, and the new mean weight is 401. Okay, so let's work out the total when there were 5 in the bag. So that will just be the mean multiplied by how many there are. Okay, so 398 multiplied by 5. That gives me 1990. And now when there are 6 in the bag, the total is 401 times by how many there are, which is 6. So 401 times by 6, and that is 2,406. Okay, so how much that sixth one weighed must be the difference between the two totals. So I'll take that new total and I'll subtract 1990 and I'll get 416, which sounds about right, seeing as the averages are around 400. Okay, next question. We have a percentages question, and we're told that the population of Sydney was this, and this was 22% of the total. So 22% was equal to 5.8 million. I'll just write 5.8 m. So what I'll do is I will find 1% first, and I'll do that by dividing by 22. So I'll take 5.48 and I'll divide it by 22. And that gives me not a nice number. I'll leave it as a fraction. Why not? 137 over 550. And then to get 100%, well, I'll just multiply by 100. So times by 100. And that's going to give me 24.9. So 24.9 million. Perfect. Solve these inequalities. I look at the x and I will need to add 3 to all sides, which will give me minus 4 is less than or equal to 2x, which is less than 8. And then divide all sides by 2 gives me minus 2 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 4. So moving to the number line, I would put a circle at minus 2 and a circle at 4, and I would connect them up. And because it's less than or equal to at minus 2, I would fill that circle in. Okay, we've got an isosceles triangle, and we've got some length, so we've got some angles. So I'm going to use trigonometry here in order to work out some of the missing sides. So if that's 65 degrees, then this side here is the opposite. And let's find this side here, the adjacent. So opposite and adjacent means I'll need to use tan. So tan of the angle is the opposite over the adjacent. I'm looking for the adjacent, so I cover that up, which means that the adjacent A is equal to the opposite over tan of the angle, the opposite being 16 and the angle being 65. So I go to my calculator and I do the following, and I get 7.46 for this value there. I can then find the hypotenuse, and I could do that using Pythagoras' theorem, probably the easiest way of doing it. So the hypotenuse squared is equal to 16 squared plus 7.46 squared. So I'll square this, so I keep the exact answer, plus 16 squared, and then I will square root my answer. And that is 17.65, or 17.7 rounded up. Okay, perfect. So now what I need to do is just go around the shape. So that, because I'm asked for the perimeter. So that is 17.7. By symmetry, that is also 17.7. I know A, and by symmetry, this is also A. So I need to do perimeter is equal to 17.7 plus 17.7 plus 7.46 plus 7.46. So 17.7 plus 17.7 plus 7.46 plus 7.46. And I get a total of 50.3. Fantastic. Okay, question number 11, and it's asking us to find the angle DFE. So I draw a line from D to F and then to E. So this is the angle I'm looking for. I've also spotted here that I've got this arrowhead shape, and that means that the angle at the circumference is, or the angle at the centre is twice the angle at the circumference. So if I could find this angle, let's call it X, that would be really helpful. And that makes a straight line with this purple angle here. And I know this is a right angle triangle. Sorry, that's a right angle because a tangent and a radius meet at 90 degrees. So I can look at this purple triangle. So in this purple triangle we have 90 and we have 48, which means we are missing one angle which must be 42. So 42 goes in there. X is on a straight line with 42, so it's 180 minus 42, which is 138. And then finally, the angle we're actually looking for, which is DEF, is 1/2 of the angle 138. So I do 138 divided by 2, and I get 69. Okay, classic solve, and because it says quadratic and because it says three significant figures, I know I need to use the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula, minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. The b value is positive 6, so negative b is negative 6. B squared is going to be 6 squared. Minus 4 multiplied by a is 3 and c is minus 5. All over 2 times by a, which is 3. Okay, so what I'm going to want to do, to get all my method marks, I'm going to want to type in what is underneath that square root. So I'm going to press 6 squared minus 4 times 3 times minus 5. That gives me 96. So I can write this as minus 6 plus or minus the square root of 96 all over, 2 times 3 is 6, so that's just 6 on the bottom there. Okay. Now we can type that into our calculator. Minus 6 plus the square root of 90, oops, actually first, let's press the fraction button. Minus 6 plus the square root of 96 all over 6. And we get 0.633. And then we can go back into our calculator up here and change that to a minus. And we get minus 2.63. And of course, with this calculator, we can check as well to make sure we've got the answer right. Whenever we solve a quadratic, go to equation, polynomial, degree 2, type in the coefficients of 3, 6, and minus 5, press equals, and there we have our two answers. Splendid. Okay, rearranging. The whole right side has been square rooted, so we're going to reverse that process by squaring both sides. Like so. I'm then going to multiply by the denominator to get 5rm squared is equal to 6a plus r. I then need to make r the subject, so I've got to bring all the r's to one side, and all the terms without an r need to go onto the other side. And now what I can do is I can factorise an r out of this left-hand side expression. That's going to give me 5m squared minus 1. And because it's a factor, it means I can divide through by that factor, so I get r is equal to 6a over 5m squared minus 1. Question 13 is quite tricky, very tricky question. First off, we will substitute in. So a minus b is going to be root 8 plus 4, and then I'm taking away root 8 minus 4. Okay, and then a plus b is going to be root 8 plus 4 plus root 8 minus 4. Okay, let's evaluate each bracket. So I've got a root 8 minus a root 8, so they cancel. I've got 4 minus minus 4, which makes 8. So that bracket is just 8. This one, I've got root 8 and another root 8, so that's 2 root 8. And I've got a 4 and a minus 4, they cancel. So it's just 8 multiplied by 2 root 8. Now I can rewrite this as 8 multiplied, because this 2 is the same as the square root of 4. And I'm going to need the square root of 4 in here, because essentially this is y times by the square root of 4 times the square root of y. So I'm going to need a square root of 4. And that is the 2 right there, so that's helpful. So I can write this now as 2 as the square root of 4 times the square root of 8. And that's perfect, because that's 8 multiplied by the square root of 4 times by 8. So y in this case is 8. Okay, question 14. We've got Ding playing Marco and Judd at snooker, and it says work out the probability that Ding will win at both games. Well, that will be ding ding, and that's 0.6 times 0.9, which is 0.54. And it says work out the probability that Ding will win exactly one of the games. Well, that would be win-loss or loss-win. So the chance of that happening is 0.6 times 0.1, which is 0.06, or it's 0.4 times 0.25, which is 0.1. So either of those can happen, and that will give Ding winning one game. So we add those two together, so it's 0.16. Recurring decimals. Now, the way that I do these questions is, because there are 2 digits reoccurring, I start by writing x is equal to 4.575757. And then because there are 2 digits reoccurring, I multiply by 100, which is a 1 with 2 zeros. And this is going to give me, actually I haven't written that out as neatly as I could have done. Let's space it out a little bit better. So that's going to give me 457.575757. Okay, that's great, because when we subtract, we get 99x, and we get 457 minus 4, which is 453, and all the decimals will cancel out nice and neatly. So x is equal to this divided by that, and we can just put that into our calculator and hope that we get the same thing which they show us. Okay, so that's 151 over 33. And let's just check, if we do 33 multiplied by 4, we get 132. And does that mean if I take that away from 151, there is 19 left over? Yes, there are. So that is correct. 4 and 19 over 33. Okay, next question is a classic rationalise the denominator. What you're going to want to do is multiply by the denominator, but with the sign changed, top and bottom. Like so. So let's get started. 2 times 6 and 2 times 3 root 2. That's going to be 12 and 6 root 2. On the bottom, 6 times 6 is 36. And we're also going to get minus 3 root 2 times 3 root 2. 3 times 3 is 9, root 2 times root 2 is 2, so 9 times 2 is 18. And there's a minus sign there, so minus 18. The other terms are going to cancel, because we'll have a 6 times by a 3 root 2, and we'll have a 6 times by a minus 3 root 2. So they will cancel. Great. This gives me 12 plus 6 root 2 over 18. And I can take out a factor of 6, leave me 2, leaves me 1, leaves me 3. So overall I have 2 plus root 2 over 3. Expand and simplify a triple bracket. I'm going to start by ignoring the last bit and just multiply these out. So x plus 4 multiplied by x minus 2 is x squared minus 2x plus 4x minus 8, which simplifies down to x squared minus, plus 2x minus 8. And now I can multiply that by the x plus 1. So I write it out like this, and I write x plus 1 here. And then I multiply x by everything in here, and I multiply 1 by everything in there. So doing the x's first gives me x cubed plus 2x squared minus 8x. And then doing the 1's next, I get x squared plus 2x minus 8. So I'm going to get 1x cubed. I'm going to collect up the x squareds and get 2 and 1 makes 3. I'm going to collect up the x's. Minus 8 plus 2 is minus 6. And then finally I have the constant term on the end, which is just minus 8. Completing the square, most important part is this term here, the b term. I half that, and I write x minus 5 all squared, and then I always take away whatever that half term was, which is minus 5 squared. And I've also got to add on 40. Okay, this gives me x minus 5 all squared minus 25, because minus 5 squared is 25, and then we're taking it away, plus 40, and minus 25 plus 40 is plus 15. So x minus 5 squared plus 15. Okay, we have similar shapes here, and what I will do is I will work out what the scale factor is, the linear scale factor, by taking the larger one and dividing it by the smaller one. So I have a linear scale factor of 1.5. It says the difference between the volume of base A and the volume of base B is 1197. So let's call x the volume of base A. And if I want to convert between volumes, I'll need to work out the volume scale factor, which is k cubed, which is 1.5 cubed, which is 27 over 8. Or as a decimal, 3.375. So if the volume of A is x, then the volume of B, I'll need to multiply by the scale factor k cubed, and that will give me 3.375x. Now the difference between the two volumes will be one of them minus the other, or the larger one minus the smaller one. So this will give me, if I have 3.375x minus 1x, that's 2.375x. And we also know that that is equal to 1197, because we're told that's what the difference is. So to find x, I will just need to take 1197 and divide it by 2.375, which gives me 504. Question 18. Prove that the sum of the squares of any two consecutive odd numbers is divided by 8. The remainder is always 2. So let's dissect that. Two consecutive odd numbers. So I will start with 2k. See, I might do 2k plus 3 and 2k plus 1, but actually I'm going to do 2k minus 1. It's a bit cheeky. And I'm going to do 2k plus 1, because those will be consecutive odd numbers. And it's just going to keep my calculations a bit easier than using 2k plus 3. And it's the sum of the squares. So I've got to square them and add them together. Okay, let's do that. Let's multiply out. So if I'm multiplying out a square bracket like this, I'm going to get 2k times 2k is 4k squared. I'll get minus 1 times 2k. And I'll get 2k times minus 1. And I'll get minus 1 times by itself, so that's plus 1. And over here, I'm going to get 2k times 2k, which is 4k squared. 2k times 1, which is 2k. 1 times 2k, which is 2k. And 1 times 1 is 1. Great. Cancel, cancel with cancel, cancel. Which leaves me with 8k squared. Adding these two together. And then adding these two together, plus 2. So here we have a, so this is a multiple of 8 plus 2. And that proves that when I divide it by 8, I will get a remainder of 2. Okay, bounds. It's asked me to find the lower bound of k. So if I want to find k lower, then because k is a fraction, I'm going to want my numerator to be as small as possible, but I'm going to want my denominator to be as big as possible, because dividing by a big number is going to make your overall number much smaller. So I want this to be as big as possible, but in order to make the denominator big, I want to take away as little as possible, so h needs to be lower. Okay, so what I do for bounds is I start with t here, I put 14, and if I'm only using two figures, the next number along will be 15, and the number before will be 13. And the upper and lower bounds are halfway between each of these. So I'm looking for the lower bound, so that will be 13.5. Okay, so I'll write 13.5 here. And then let's look at A. A is 7.8 to two figures, so I'd use two figures and I would have 7.7 and 7.9 either side. And for A, I want the upper bound, so that's going to be 7.85. So 7.85. And then we go to H, which is 3.4. So two figures again, 3.5, 3.3. And for H, I want the lower bound, so that's in here, which is 3.35. So minus 3.35. Okay, great. Go to my calculator. 13.5 over 7.85 minus 3.35. And I get 3. And that seems good because it doesn't actually ask me to give my answer to a certain degree of accuracy. So to get a nice whole round number like that feels good. Okay, here's a nice tricky question, which is worth a total of 7 marks. So we have a straight line passes through 2 points, and the straight line M is perpendicular to L and passes through the midpoint of AB. Okay, so let's start by working out the equation of L. So I'm given 2 points, I can work out the gradient first. So the gradient of L is the change in the y coordinates. So I'll start with y2, which is 3, minus y1, which is 2, over x2, which is 5, minus x1, which is minus 6. This gives me 1 over 11. Okay, now we can look at the straight line M. M's gradient is perpendicular to L's, so therefore it is the negative reciprocal, which in this case will be minus 11. And it passes through the midpoint of AB. Okay, so we need to find the midpoint of AB. And we do that by averaging the x-coordinates first. So minus 6 plus 5 divided by 2. Then averaging the y-coordinates. So 2 plus 3 divided by 2. So this gives me minus 1/2. And this gives me 5 over 2. Okay, so back to line M. We now know a point which is on line M, and we know its gradient. So we could do y is equal to minus 11x plus c. And we can sub in the point which we know, which is 5 over 2 and minus 1/2 plus c. And this gives me 5 over 2 is equal to positive 11 over 2 plus c. So c is equal to 5 over 2 minus 11 over 2, which is minus 6 over 2, I believe, which is minus 3. Let's just double check that. Great, minus 3. So c is equal to minus 3. So we have the equation of M. It is y is equal to minus 11x minus 3. Okay, that should get us some marks at least. Now what are they asking? The line M intersects the line x minus 1 at the point C. Okay, so let's just draw a little picture just to see what's going on here. This purple line has a negative y-intercept at minus 3. It's also got a negative gradient of minus 11, so it's going to look something like that. And we're told that it intersects the line y equals minus 1, sorry, x equals minus 1, which will look something like this, let's say. So that's the line x equals minus 1. So we can find this point, and that point is the point C, by substituting x minus 1 into the line. So I get y is equal to minus 11 times minus 1 minus 3. So y is equal to positive 11 minus 3, which is equal to 8. So we know the coordinates of C are minus 1 because it's on the green line, and 8 is the y coordinate. Okay, we are asked to work out the triangle ABC. So we knew we had A and we had B. A is somewhere over here, B is somewhere over here, and we also have that midpoint which we know is on the purple line. Now if I was to draw the triangle, it would look something like this. And I know that this is a right angle in here because the purple line is perpendicular with the AB line. Okay, so basically what I need to do is find the distance of A to B, multiply it by the distance of M to C, and then times it by half because it's a triangle. Okay, let's give that a go then. So the distance between A to B is the change in the x-coordinates, which is 11, and the change in the y-coordinates, which is 1, squared, added together, square rooted. So we'll do a half times by the square root of 11 squared plus 1 squared. And then what about m to c? Well, again, we need to work out what the difference is in the x-coordinate between m and c. So minus a half to minus 1 has a gap of a half. And 5 over 2 and 8, so that's 2.5, and 8 has a gap of 5.5. So in fact, let's use decimals, might be easier. Okay, so this is the calculation we'll have to do. So I'll go to my calculator. 0.5 is a half multiplied by the square root of 11 squared plus 1 squared multiplied by the square root of 0.5 squared plus 5.5 squared. Oh, lovely, I get an exact answer of 30.5. Splendid. Algebraic fractions, we have to factorise first, I would say. So the top line is a difference of two squares, so 3x minus 2 and 3x plus 2. The bottom one, I've got to use the factorisation method, so I'm going to use the AC method. So 3 multiplied by minus 10 is minus 30, and the b value is minus 13. Because the a value is 3, I write 3x all divided by 3. And then I think, what are my two numbers that times to make minus 30 and add to make minus 13? So that's minus 15 and plus 2. Now, can I take a factor of 3 out of this bracket? I can the left one. Great. So divide through by 3, and that will cancel the divide 3 by 3 on the bottom. So I get x minus 5, and I get 3x plus 2. And I've got to take away 7 over x minus 1. Okay, so let's do the multiplication first, because bid maths tells us we must do. I can cancel 3x minus 2 and 3x minus 2, because one's on top, one's on bottom. And I can cancel 3x plus 2 and 3x plus 2. That leaves me with 1 over x minus 5 minus 7 over x minus 1. Okay, next I can find a common denominator of x minus 5 times x minus 1. And I can do cross multiplying. So I multiply this by this to get x minus 1, subtract this times this, which gives me 7 lots of x minus 5. Okay, great, we're ready to multiply out. The top line needs to be simplified, sorry, we won't multiply out the bottom line. I've got x minus 1 minus 7x and plus 35. Okay, and then this simplifies to x minus 7x is minus 6x, and minus 1 plus 35 is plus 34. And then finally, what we might want to do is take out a factor of 2 here, just to check to see if we can do any more cancelling, because we want to factorise as much as possible, but we can't do any cancelling. So that is our final answer. Okay, classic question of finding the inverse function of a quadratic, and you have to do it by completing the square. So it's all about this term here, the minus 8. We half it, so we get x minus 4 all squared minus, always minus, minus 4 squared, because that's half of the minus 8, plus 5. This gives me x minus 4 squared minus 16 plus 5, which gives me x minus 4 squared minus 11. Now what I can do is I can, to find the inverse function, I set it equal to y, and then I swap the x's and y's over. and then I proceed to make y the subject. So I add 11 to both sides, I square root, and I will get a plus and minus, and then I add 4 to the other side, so I get this is equal to y. And the last step is to say the inverse function is equal to, and we must check the domain, x is always less than or equal to 4, which means that the inverse function can only give out values which are less than or equal to 4, and because of that I must select minus here such that my value is less than or equal to 4. Okay, this question, it says that this angle is obtuse. We're going to have to use that bit of information, and all of this is on the diagram already. Find the area of the triangle. Okay, well, we want to just find as many sides and angles as possible. We've got an angle and a side pair here, which means we can use the sine rule. And we've also got this side here, which means we can find the opposite side to make a pair. So let's call that theta. So sine rule states that sine theta over its opposite side, 4.2, is equal to another pair, which will be sine of 18 over 1.6. Okay, multiply both sides by 4.2. And put that into my calculator. So 4.2 multiplied by sine 18 over 1.6. Whoops. This gives me 0.81. And then to find theta, I'll need to do the inverse of sine. And I get 54.2. But that is not an obtuse angle, that is an acute angle. And what you are meant to know for GCSE is that sine theta is also equal to sine of 180 minus theta. So all I need to do is do 180 minus this value, and I get the obtuse angle. So 180 minus, and it's 125.8. So 125.8 is the other solution, and I'm going to reject the acute one. Okay, now let's recheck to see what I have in my triangle. In order for me to find the area of a triangle, I need two sides and I need the angle in between. Let's call this one phi. So luckily I can work out what phi is because I've now got the other two angles in the triangle. So it's 180 minus theta, which is 125.8, and 18. So I do 180 minus, that answer is saved in my calculator, and minus 18. And I get 36.2. Okay, great. So finally the area of a triangle is equal to a half. The two sides opposite, in between, the two sides next to, adjacent to, the angle which we know, which is 36.2. So I go to my calculator and I go 0.5 times 4.2 times 1.6 times sine of the previous answer that I have saved in my calculator, and I get 1.98 to three significant figures. Okay, final question. We have a particle moving along a straight line Displacement is given as x. Normally it's given as s, but it's the same thing. It's in terms of t, which is time, and the direction of motion of p reverses when p is at the point A on the line. So when something reverses, at that particular instant, the velocity must equal 0, because it must stop and then turn back on itself. The acceleration of p at the instant when p is at A is given as little a meters per second. Find the value of little a. Well, they're really making this unnecessarily complicated. So essentially, to find the velocity, we just differentiate the displacement. 3 comes down times by the 4 to get 12t squared. And minus 27t differentiates to minus 27. And 8 is a constant, so that differentiates to 0. Like I said, we need to investigate the time when the velocity equals 0. So I'm going to set that equal to 0. And I'm going to add on the 27 to the other side, divide through by 3, divide through by 4, and square root, which is fine to do so because the negative, we can't have negative time anyway, so the time is 3/2. And then it's asked me to find the acceleration. So the acceleration is the derivative of the velocity. So I differentiate this 12t squared minus 27, and that's going to give me 24t, and 27 differentiates to 0. And I need to investigate the time when it changes direction, which we've already established is at t is equal to 3/2. So it's 24 times by 3/2, which is 36. And we're done.